Okay, so there's the fuselage. I put parts of it together off camera. Oh, and this is kind of out of focus a little bit, but it's because it was just easy to do. Like that back piece, that former, you just lined it up where it went, and you can see there's a little line on top that has to be on the top side. And then you made sure the bottom was nice and flush with the sides. Everything fit really well. It wasn't worth showing this because it was just sort of a quick and dirty, easy thing. The next thing is to put this little rear decking on with the ears. And I test fit this, and it fits really nice. Might need a little bit of sanding. No, I already did that, I guess. Look at that. It fits it snaps right in place. So the next thing to do is add a little glue and pop it in. And it lends a great deal of strength to the fuselage. All this time, by the way, you're checking to make sure that the fuselage is square and that it's not bowing, as in Boeing B-17. It's not bowing as in curved towards the back, because you want everything to be nice and square and straight. But that piece fit really nicely, and fuselage is really starting to take shape. Looks really good. This is the little piece that's going to make the turtle deck on the back. Has a little former on there that gets glued right in that line, and you just glue that in nice and sturdy. And that's another nice shape that's going to help you when you put that decking on. Now the front, I found that it's easier if you put that 3B piece on first and put it where it's supposed to go in between those lines on the edges, because that's where the sides and the bottom go, and then put it on. That acts more like a key almost. So added glue to that and then slid that on rather than putting that square piece on first and then on the fuselage sides. Now this just almost clicks in place. It goes right in like so, and it's nice and straight, and everything lines up. And you can see all those little double lines. That's where everything's supposed to fit, and it all fits really well. This kit so far is very, very well engineered, if you're careful. So I added a little glue and went ahead and added the fuselage to that front. This is where my engine's going to go. I'm not worried about putting something on the back to retain the rotary motor, because I'm just going to have it spin free anyway, and it'll be fine. Although there is in the kit a way to make sure the engine wouldn't fall out, but I don't intend to play with it. Now you can see there's that ridge there. I'll see that little ridge right on the front. That's perfect because that is as designed. The sides fit on top of the bottom as opposed to around it, and then there's the bottom piece. And you turn that over and it lips right up in there. It fits like a glove. But again, this is why the thicknesses all have to be correct. So if you carefully do that, then all of this starts to turn out really nice, the assembly. So there's the main part, and you can see that little piece is not quite flush. So a couple swipes of the massive sanding block cures that in just a couple seconds. That front piece goes up. Notice they've put an arrow for forward, which is fantastic, and it doesn't fit quite. Don't know why, but you just swipe it with a few bits of the sanding block. Just make sure you keep it square, and then when you test it and it fits, you just add your glue and pop it right in. And again, it almost snaps into place if you're careful and pre-fit things. Remember, since you've cut all these out, they're not going to be perfect. So it pays huge dividends to test fit. Don't just apply glue and hope for the best. So the front end's going to be nice and strong. Looking really good. Now, here's the bottom, and notice the bottom is curved. And even the balsa, or if it was cardboard, you want to curve it a little bit so that it's shaped. And here's what I mean. Those pieces there, and then the edges, that's where the sides attach to on top of that. See, it could have been so that the bottom fit in between the sides, but it doesn't. It's designed to fit right on top. So what I'll do is put some glue on that front top piece by the cowling, and then slowly glue it down. Now previously, I drew little lines, demarcation lines here, that I'm pointing out in pencil here and here. and one in the back. And those are on the side of the bottom piece so I can see it. But those correlate with all the little formers, wherever all the formers sit. That just helps me make sure that I actually place it in the right location. So I use a little super glue, and I just did the front underneath that chin part first, thinking that if I put that in and it's straight, then I can come down and put the other sides in. Don't try to do it all at once. You might run into trouble, especially if you're using super glue. But I made sure that the tail end fit and it wasn't wonky or it wasn't not straight or something. If it's a little bit oversized on the edges, we can sand that back. So glue that in place. Make sure that's nice and tight and dry. And then I can put some glue on the edges here on both sides and all the way to the back. And again, I'm using super glue in this case because it's balsa to balsa and it'll be nice and strong. And you just start squishing it down as you go. Another thing you can do is put the whole thing on the ground and sort of rock it, and that'll help keep it nice and straight as well. But you just make sure that everything is glued in place and it's square. And again, the sides are vertical, the tail isn't twisted. It'll be a good basis for putting the stabilizer on. Looks really good. So it's really fun at this point because it's really starting to take shape. I mean, if you know anything about Fokker triplane, you look at this, you think, my gosh, that is a Fokker triplane. So it's kind of exciting. And if there's little places that didn't quite glue, like there by my index finger, you just put a little glue in and then squeeze it. And sometimes I'll use that zip kicker to sort of hasten things along. But you just make sure it's all clean. Again, it's important that everything was the right thickness because now when we do start putting on the skins, they've got to be, the right size. If this floor is too thick, for instance, the skin won't fit. The skin will be too skinny. Okay. So making sure that's all okay. Now I was oversized just a smidge, so a couple passes of you can see back on the tail, of the sanding block fixes that. Now there's a piece that goes on the front of the cowling. It's a silver piece. And there it is right there. That little piece, just cut that out, and that's going to be glued to the surface. So the engine will go up against that, so that'll be the backing. You'll hardly see it, but at least it's a piece that looks like it's metal. So you just carefully cut this out. Don't worry, I don't show cutting out the whole thing, since we've already showed that, how to do that in general. Some of the stuff later will show you some cutting again, like for the wings, to be careful, but I won't torture you too long. But again, a nice curve, just take it nice and slow, cut on the line, and delicate cuts and then make a few passes. Don't try to get it all at once, just like we said before. It never comes out perfect. I always give it a little sand by eye, look and see that I don't have any funny marks sticking up. And then, in this case, color it. I'm going to be painting all this, of course, so it won't matter, but I'm still in the habit of doing that. I make sure my holes are open because those are going to have to be in line for the engine. And make sure that they're open and they fit and they line up with the other piece that's on the fuselage there on the front. And that's the way it's going to fit. And it fits really well, by the way. It's nice and straight. Looks good. Put a little glue on. Notice I put a piece of wire through that paper piece because that way I can stick it right onto that hole, and that'll help line it all up so I don't have to find the hole later or whatever. So that's just a little trick. Smear your glue around so that you kind of don't make it so thick. It just has to be enough to hold the paper. It doesn't have to be gobs and gobs of it. I slide that piece in just as I said as a way to gauge that the hole's in the right place. Slide on the piece of paper, pull out the wire, and then I just do some adjusting. Good camera work there. Just making sure that it's straight, making sure that it's in there. I make sure that, again, I didn't lose the hole, which I didn't. And there it is. That looks like a really good skeleton, because now all we need to do is getting ready to start skinning it. We'll start putting the cheeks on in the front, and then we'll start putting on parts of the black, which will look really cool. Then it gets even more exciting because then it starts to really shape into a really nice looking model.